last hour, you can go into past time, as in the past hour. Time has to do with events. You can say the last Olympics or the last decade, something happened. And time has to do with day or night. There are lots of contexts in which we can shift tense to indicate time. And we use the verbs to do that. So we are going to take a look now at some verbs. Let me clean my whiteboard because I am going to be writing some sentences to illustrate what I'm talking about. Now, many of you, when I say, what is a verb? Instinctively, I hear you say a verb is an action word. And I am still looking at you and wondering what's coming next. Because if that is all that you have in your mind, you are limited in your knowledge of verbs. So let us explore some verbs. We have to be as the root of the being verbs. Am, is, are, those are in the present tense. And being, not the human being, but the present participle form of be, B-E-I-N-G. Did you know that? Do not mix them up. Being. And we have the past tense. So the past tense of am is was, and the past tense of is was, and the past tense of are is were. And then we have a tense called the subjunctive tense. That tense is when, you think about the impossible almost. You begin to imagine something that, you could never realize, such as you say, if I were a bird, I'm in this traffic, and if I were a bird, I would really fly home. You say were. Okay, to take care of, it's okay to imagine. And imagination releases us and allows us to express. So you want to really express how long you'd want to go home, or how anxious you are to go home. And you say, if I were a bird, I would just fly. So that's where that tense comes in. I am going to spend some time on the being verbs because it gives you a lot of trouble. But let us move on to the other verbs. When we express possession, okay, we use words such as has, have. And in the past tense, has becomes had, and have become had. Okay, so we have own as another word that can be used to express ownership, belonging, possession. I own a marker. We use the word belong, those words, ownership. So a verb can also express ownership. Then we have some other verbs which are abstract. Ideas, such as happy. You can't really feel it. So you can't touch it, you feel it. So you say, I am happy today. Happy, sad. Hungry. Think. Those are also verbs. They are expressing what the brain does. And the one you like the most, actions. Those almost need no explanation. Talk, eat, drive, run. Those are the ones that come to your mind the quickest. I'm going to write a sentence on the board right now. And the sentence is, I am a teacher. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. I look at you and I say to you, what is a sentence? And you say, Miss, a sentence is a thought that makes complete sense. So you're agreeing that this makes complete sense. It begins with a capital letter and it ends with a period or an end mark. I am a teacher. I'm a girl. I'm a boy. I say to you, what is the verb? Underline the verb in that sentence. A very simple sentence. And I am going to wager with you now. You're going to say, if you didn't hear me say it before, Miss, I don't say the verb. I don't see any verb in that sentence. Where's the verb, Miss? That's what you tell me. So I point you now back to be. Those words that express existence, the being verbs. And when you break them apart, we use am with I. So here is a verb. I am a teacher. Are you paying attention? Yes? How do you pay attention? Look with your eyes, listen carefully, and think. Very good. Okay, then. So I am a teacher. This tense is the present tense being. The present tense being form, I. I am, present tense. I am going to now continue this in the present tense. So I'm going to continue writing with my other marker. I am a teacher. I am standing in the classroom. So I am standing. Do you have your notebooks? Make sure you're writing. I am standing in the classroom. In the classroom. Classroom. What else can I say? My students are listening to the lesson. Okay, then. My students are listening to the lesson. The lesson. Okay, wonderful. Now, all of these sentences are in the present tense. But notice over here, with the am, I have standing. Is standing in the present tense? Yes, it is. So what is the ing doing on it? Remember the present participle form. Present, but the action is going on for some time. I didn't just stand up and then sit. I'm still on my feet, so I'm standing. I'm standing in the classroom. If I ask you, what is the verb in the second sentence, you would be tempted to tell me that the verb is standing. But the verbs, standing. And the verbs in the last sentence are listening. Very good. Now, suppose I were to write this in the past tense. I would say that, let me use the other color marker. I would say that I was a teacher and I was in the classroom and my students were listening. If I say listened, I have switched my tense. I am not consistent. We are going to take a break, a quick break, and we'll be right back with more. Welcome back to class time. Let us pick up from where we left off. We were finishing up the switch in tenses right here. And we had looked at the past tense. So what we did was we wrote it over in the past tense. So am became was, okay, am became was, are became were. But why do you think listened would be a shift in tense? Yes, it is a shift in tense because the action is happening right here. Standing and listening. The process is going on. So you should say, my students were listening to the lesson, showing the continuity of the action that is happening. So are is a being verb part, and remember that are is not by itself a helping verb or an auxiliary verb. It becomes that when you make it do that. Remember what we looked at before. We say the being verbs are is, are, was, were by themselves. That's the reason that I have this first sentence. To show you that can be in a sentence by itself. It is not helping anything when it is in this first sentence. I am a teacher, full stop. Being, existence. Now, when I take and couple it with standing now, I have a verb phrase. Is accounting for existence still, and standing is the action part. So we have an existence part and the action part, and we have a verb phrase, I'm standing. And the ing that we said is right here, that is showing the action, not just stand, but standing. So the action of standing, it is going on. Now, switching the tense now. So you switch from am to was and are to were. The action is still going on. They were listening at the time. But if you say, my students listen to the lesson, it is showing as if they just heard one time and stopped. No, that's not what the context is saying. The lesson went on and on for a while, and their ears were cued for a while. So you should say, were listening. Not my students listen to the lesson, not in this context. Okay? All right then. Let me clean the board, and we are going to take a look at the perfect tense. Now, the perfect tense, very quickly, we are not going to go very deep into the perfect tense for this lesson, but just to touch on it to show that it is an important tense that tends to give a lot of trouble. So the perfect tense is used to express in the present perfect something that is relevant now, but it did not necessarily begin now. Okay then? So the perfect tense, have and has. Remember when we looked at have and has before? We said that these words explain possession. Possession. Have and has are two words. There are other words. Remember them. Now, when you are using the perfect tense, you use have and has, and those are in which tense? Have and has. Present tense. Present tense. And the past tense of have is what? Had. And the past tense of has is what? Had. Okay then, you have to learn your grammar to use it well. Okay, so the present tense plus the past participle form of a verb becomes the perfect tense, the present perfect tense. So let us say we have finished. So finished is an action word. So you have finish, F-I-N-I-S-H, finish, present tense, finished, F-I-N-I-S-H-E-D. Okay, so we have now the ed at the end. And you know what that signifies, right? Okay, it's a regular verb. So we have finished, and the past participle form is finished. Okay, F-I-N-I-S-H-E-D. Now, present tense, past participle form. And what am I saying again? When I am forming the perfect tense, meaning I started to do something before now, and I am still doing it in that tense explains it. So I use the present tense form and the past participle. So I have finished. Okay then, have finished. That will be the present perfect tense. Now, for another example, if you lose something, you have it, you lose it. So you lose it, then the present tense is lose. You lose it, and the past tense is what? Past tense of lose. Lost. Lost. That's an irregular verb. So you lost it. So if you cannot find your keys, for example, you could say, I have lost it. Okay? Lost it. Lost. So I would put have. Have finished. Have lost. That's the present perfect. Now, what would be the past perfect? Had lost. I had lost it. Okay then. All right then, we will go into the perfect tense some more when we have another lesson. Bear that in mind. So we are going to go now. So we're looking at, Tom is looking for his key. He can't find it. He has lost. So those are some examples of sentences. James is on holiday. He has gone. Has gone right now as I speak. Remember I said the present tense plus the past participle form. So James went on holiday, he left before now. So he has right now as I'm speaking gone. So some time back. He is there some time back. And gone is the past participle form of what? Go. So you have go and gone. Very good. All right then. And then the last sentence on our screen says, have you heard anything from Brian recently? Notice that the two tenses, the two words are not side by side. So the words in the sentence don't always, all the time, have to be side by side. So you see that one, it says, have you heard anything from Brian recently? And the tenses that we're dealing with, what are they? Have and heard. Have heard. And heard is a past participle form of what? Hear. Okay then, you're doing wonderful this morning. Wow, that's great. All right, we are going to go deep now into some writing. And we are going to look to see if we can put our eagle's eyes into this writing and see if we can identify some of the problems. This first one. Let me erase the board because I am going to write the corrections that you are going to make from the reading that you are seeing on the screen. Make sure you're doing that in your notebooks as well. Okay, so dear Uncle George, it's a letter. Someone is writing a letter. Dear Uncle George, I write to ask you if you could do me a favor, as Dad says you might. The thing is, I had been trying to get a job in an office now that I have left school and have answered 12 adverts. Now, this is a friendly letter. It's not a formal letter because it's his uncle. So it's not being formal. So, okay, so adverts between, people who are emotionally connected. Okay, so, and have answered 12 adverts in the paper, but hasn't had any replies. I thought it is probably because I don't know how to write business letters. So he's asking for help because he's writing all these letters and he's not getting any answers, any responses. Look at it carefully and tell me, where do you see a correction that is needed for the tense? Where do we see the correction that is needed? Okay, the first one. So remember when I said before, standing is not just stand and stop. It's going on, the action of being on your feet. So he has just started the letter. So he would not say, I write this letter. He's just the first sentence. I am writing. I am writing. So he should say, I am writing. All right then, so let me write that on the board. I am writing. So that's the first correction. I am writing. I am writing. Okay then, where do you see another part that could be corrected? Okay then, the thing is, what does it say? Had been trying. Had been, so that's the past perfect tense. And he needs to get back to the present. So we should have, I have been trying. I just can't get a job. All the writing I'm writing, I can't get a job, uncle, help. So I have. So have. So we're going to change had to have. Have been trying. So have been trying. Okay. So we are maintaining the tense right now. Right now, uncle, I have a problem and I need your help. Anything else? I thought it is probably because I think. I am in the process momentarily. I am thinking. I think. So we should have, I think it is. So I think it is. Okay, what do we notice? What have we done in making the correction in the shift? We have contextualized the writing to present time right now. So even when we're using the perfect part, they have been. Remember, for the perfect tense to be in the present perfect, the first verb must be in the present tense. Okay, so we removed the had, we have now. So we have made it everything, present right now. All right then, wonderful. Let us go to the next one. Now we sometimes are writing stories for our assignments. So let us see if we can see what is shifting in this story. This particular story, the person is getting descriptive, describing an incident in which tension is mounting. Okay then, tension is mounting in this and the person is writing about it. And the person reaches a part in the story where he or she is describing. So the person says, however, the maid did not go away. She remained standing beside and slightly behind Pratt Johnson. There was something unusual in her manner, in the way she stood there. Small, motionless, and erect. That I, for one, found myself watching her with a sudden apprehension. Her old gray face is frosty, looking determined. The lips are compressed. The little chin is out, and the hands had been clasped together tight before her. She's about to reveal something, tension. Okay, but there's a shift in the tense. Can you find it? Where's the shift in the tense? Firstly, the person is writing in what tense? Okay, somewhere in the past. The maid did not go away. She remained standing. So you see the ed on the remained. Past again. There was something. So that's past as well. Unusual in her manner and in the way she stood. So you see, this past tense is being maintained. Small, motionless, and direct, and so on. Then, her old gray face is frosty. So the person has suddenly shifted over to the present when he really was describing everything in the past. So, her old gray face would be what? Was frosty. Was frosty. So we have was frosty. Okay then. Was frosty. Looking determined. Okay? The lips are compressed. Is that correct? No. Were compressed. So, you say you purse your lips. Okay, so were compressed. Were compressed. Shift. Okay, so we are bringing back the context reorganizing the context, let it go to the past. So the lips were compressed and the chin is out. Was out. The chin was out. Okay? The chin was out. Was out. Okay then? The chin and the hands had been clasped together, okay, tight before her. Okay then? The hands, you could say the hands were clasped behind her, clasped together. Okay. All right. Were clasped together tight before her. Okay. So that one was a little bit more challenging. All right then. But you see what I'm doing. When you are writing, you should first establish the context in which you are writing. So if I am writing something that I wanted to reflect on, or to tell you that it happened before now, I should maintain that past tense. Okay? You could have past perfect, and you could have just the past tense, depending on how you are writing. Okay. One more? Let us look at one more. This is a descriptive piece now. Some persons consider the pandemic as a miracle or a terrible disguise. The pandemic is exactly a nightmare in disguise due to the loss of jobs and being away back in school. Okay, so we are going to look at due to the what? The loss of jobs? Loss. Okay, that should be lost because the lost is the past participle and the person really wants to write in the past tense due to the loss of jobs. Okay then, and the crime rate. What about the crime rate? Also increased, so the past tense. So we have the D on the increase. Well, time is going. We are going to have our final break. We'll wrap things up when we return. Soon come. Welcome back to our lesson. We are going to wrap up our lesson in this segment. Remember that we are looking at consistency in the use of tenses. You really have to learn the tenses so that when you are writing, you do not give your readers the experience of mixing yeast and baking soda. You remember that man at the beginning? What an unpleasant experience that he was looking forward to, really, those succulent dumplings. And it was spoiled. The cook spoiled it for him. So when you are writing, you spoiled it for the person who is reading. Because when you mix up the tenses, your reading is not fluent and it is not cohesive. And the person sometimes struggle to find out exactly really what you're really writing. But most of all, it shows that you're not learning your grammar. You don't want that to happen. So take time out to learn your grammar. Let us look at the final one now. This one is about reporting. And you know that we report in the past tense because it has happened already. So primarily in the past tense. So let us read this one and see. It is not just a journalist who reports. Sometimes you are in the lab and you do an experiment and you have to report your findings. So you are going to stick to the past tense. Okay then? The test tube was placed on the Bunsen burner and things like that. You keep in that tense. So a bank robber was jailed for 10.5 years yesterday after identified by his ear print. He wore a mask when he raided Barclays Bank in Wessex. He was filmed by security cameras inside the bank, and his exposed ears and eyebrows are singled out as vital clues in his conviction. Now, a reporter is writing that, but there are some errors in the tenses. So let's see if we can identify them. So I'm going back to my whiteboard, and let's read more slowly now. A bank robber was jailed for 10.5 years yesterday after identified. Something not quite right there. So identifying is a process. Okay then? So we are going to say after being identified. Remember, the teacher is teaching a process. Whatever you are writing about and it's a process, it didn't just happen and stop. It's a process. You want to use the participle form to assist you. So after being identified, so we're going to edit being identified. Okay? Because the identification itself is a process. Okay? Being verb, existence, present participle form of to be, being, and then the action is the identifying part. Okay, so being identified by his ear print. The next sentence now. He wear a mask. So you are writing, the reporter is reporting what happened yesterday. So remember at the beginning I said day, today, yesterday, day, night. Those are contexts that we use for tenses. So he started out by saying, or she, that it happened yesterday. So clearly the writer is contrasting today against yesterday. So today is a present tense, yesterday is a past tense. So it's a day versus day context. So then, since it is yesterday, okay then, we would not have wear a mask. We would have, past tense of wear is wore. So he wore a mask. So wore a mask. So we would edit that, wore a mask. And this verb, being an irregular past tense, word. Okay? Present tense wear, past tense wore. Okay, he wore a mask when he raided Barclays Bank. Don't we speak like that sometimes? But in writing. So when he raided, so you see that the raid is in what tense? The present tense. So we are going to correct that. Okay, so yesterday he raided. So R-A-I-D-E-D. Okay? And this one is a regular past tense, a regular verb. Raided Barclays Bank. He was filmed by security cameras, okay? And his exposed ears and eyebrows are singled out. So, were singled out. So that it should be were singled out, past tense. All of it happened yesterday, were. All right then. So that's our last exercise on editing to see if we can identify the shifts in tenses that we have been looking at. And remember that we should learn our tenses. If you don't learn it, all this lesson is in vain. You're going to just go right back and write just the same. You have to take time out to learn your tenses. Learn when to use which tense and make your writing really pleasant to read, and you will become more fluent, and you get more marks. More marks. Okay then? So that is our lesson. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, keep safe.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.